Welcome to the Low and Slow podcast.
We're your girls, Crystal and Lakin. If you press play today, trust, you made the right decision.
And know whenever you're listening to this, it's exactly the right time.
We invite you to pull up a seat to the conversation, get curious about your current perspective,
and lean in for the opportunity to see yourself in another woman's story.
We created That Girl Magic because we've been where you are.
Here, the talk is real and the breath is steady.
Let's get into your next mindset shift.
I think one of the hardest realizations in healing is realizing you're emotionally invested in something that keeps leaving you hungry.
Yeah, and hungry consistently all the time.
You're starving. Like every time you have that or you leave that interaction, you're feeling emotionally like underfed, maybe confused or anxious or like this longing, waiting feeling that causes you to overthink.
But you're probably calling it patience. So welcome to the Low and Slow podcast. We're Lakin and Crystal, as always. What are we talking about today, C?
Yeah, today we're asking the question most of us are actually afraid to freaking answer. And it's, why are you emotionally invested in something that keeps requiring you to betray yourself in order to stay connected to it? And that's a deep question. That's a hard question. And you don't like the answer because of what it's tied to, right? So listen, there's a real patience that comes with trusting a process that's actually moving in the direction you want to go, right? Waiting for something is genuinely building towards a version of yourself that is like the real you. But there's also this kind of patience that is actually just ignoring your own needs in the sake of staying connected. Right? Like, it's like, okay, well, I'll just continue being patient. And it's like, hey, that time where someone's going to give you what you need and do that work for you, that's actually never coming. You're going to be waiting for a very long time, right? So this sounds like I just need to give it more time, or, they're just emotionally unavailable right now. Like, maybe that could change in the future, or I know who they could be, right? They have so much, potential.
Yeah.
Right? Meanwhile, your body is starving, right? Meanwhile, these weeks have now turned into freaking months, right? And you've reorganized your entire emotional life around someone else's inconsistency. And you're calling it loyalty.
Yeah, you're calling it loyalty. You're calling it maturity. You're calling it, I'm not going to be needy. You're telling yourself it's understanding that love is just really complicated and it's not supposed to be easy, right? But on the other hand, your nervous system feels abandoned throughout all these processes every single time. And the thing to name here is that when you're waiting for consistency, but it costs you your peace or your sense of self or your ability to show up for you in your own life, that is not patience, right? That is self-abandonment. And it doesn't become something else just because you decided that it sounded better to call it patience. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not nice. I know, it's not nice.
That bitch is dressed up in all these freaking Halloween costumes, right? It's like, in the reality, we think it's this, but then it's really actually this. And I think it's important to like normalize that for a second, because I think we want to make it sound better than what it is. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what feels digestible at the time if we just name it that.
Yeah, but a lot of people think, I've heard this before. I've said this before. I'm addicted to that person, right? Like, and you're not addicted to the person. You are addicted to the pattern, right? You are addicted to the longing, the hoping, the almost, that inconsistency, the ups and downs, the chaos, the uncertainty, the chase, right? And because emotional hunger feels really familiar to you, especially if love growing up felt very conditional or inconsistent or earned, and this is what's really hard to see when you're inside of it, is that hunger doesn't feel like a red flag, right? It feels like evidence that this is something that matters. It feels like, proof that you can care deeply, or it feels like the relationship has like weight to it, right? But the weight that you're feeling is the weight that shows you that it's heavy because you're carrying it all by yourself, sis.
Yeah, that part, right. And from the nervous system side of like what's physically happening in your body, here's what's actually happening. When you love really early in your life and that was inconsistent, your nervous system learned to associate love with uncertainty. It's like, okay, love is happening within this environment. Now these two things are paired together. And so that's with the chase, that's with working for it, right? Having to earn it. And so now when someone is consistent, and is available and is just present, doesn't feel like love. Feels fucking boring.
Yeah.
Right? It's a nice guy, right? And it feels like something's missing because in your nervous system, right, that record, if you go to that specific scratch groove in the vinyl, it's going to play that song and it's missing a piece that used to be a part of that song. So when someone is unpredictable, right? They're hot, they're cold, they're emotionally maybe unavailable, like they keep you guessing. That shit feels electric. That shit feels like, oh, we have chemistry, right? It feels like depth here, like
the spark.
Yeah, right? But what your body is actually responding to is familiarity, okay? Like it knows that well. Again, all these emotions, right? They're stored in our body. And so this is where, like, you're going to, again, we say this all the time, the nervous system has one main job to protect you. It wants to go with what's familiar. And so the response that it's giving you, it's not actually connection, it's familiarity. And the nervous system mistakes that uncertainty for chemistry and that emotional deprivation for depth. Because that's the version of love that it was first taught to recognize. That was the first draft of even what love freaking looked like. And so that became your default.
Yeah, that's what we should rename the episode. Fuck the spark.
We're here for the bluntness. Like, if you follow Spark, just fuck it, right? You got to actually check, is that shit real or is that just the default? I'm done. Okay. I want to pause here in that, right? Because I think that's a bar that I want to repeat slowly for everyone listening. Your body mistakes uncertainty for chemistry and emotional deprivation for depth, because that's the version of love that it was first taught to recognize, right? It was taught that. That was something that happened even before you had a say, right? So I want you to pause for a second and think about maybe the thing or the person or the thing you keep emotionally circling, right? Again, repeating. Your brain doesn't believe what's true. Your brain believes what you repeat, right? And what it's been repeating in your body is all that it's believing until you give it something else. Now, I want you to ask yourself honestly, is what you're repeating, does this consistently nourish me? Or does it keep me mostly hoping? And in saying that, can we just bring some awareness, like notice, observe what your body says before your mind answers. Maybe, I know when I asked myself this question before, I started to feel those little shakes in my stomach, right? My feet started to tingle, right? These are the body responses that we're looking for, not just what your mind's going to try and override. And so what happens when sometimes the language that we use, right? Spiritual language, like when we said calling it patience, right? Or calling like unconditional love. What happens when the spiritual language starts to hide the avoidance, right? Because so much of this is really about unavailable behavior, and that gets spiritualized, especially in the healing community, especially in personal development, right? And we see this, clients will refer this all the time to me, like, yeah, I've seen these things on social media, and like, it's like a mating call that's being sent out when they say a certain thing. And it's like, if this resonates with you, then you're experiencing this, right? But we see this consistently. And I say this with love because, God, I've fucking done it too. It sounds like we're teaching others these lessons, right? Or like, is this divine timing? Or like, we're just mirroring each other. This is like a karmic soul contract, right?
Mhm.
We're twin flames.
Yeah.
That one's a big one. Jesus. I need to love them unconditionally, right? I need to show them what unconditional love is. And listen, like, I do believe in growth. I do believe in timing. I do believe in divine intervention, right? And the sacredness of human connection. But I also know that, like, sometimes spiritual language can come from the most sophisticated avoidance tool that we have. And because really everything is a lesson, right? And you never have to decide if the lesson's done, if it's divine timing, right? You never actually have to walk through the door. Like, here's the doorway. It's been there. And you're just like looking at it. And yeah, maybe there's people on the other side being like, come on, you can do it, right? And you're just over there just staring at the thing. So if you never have to ask, if you're just waiting past your expiration date, if it's a soul contract, right? It's like, I'm like, this is what I'm meant to be doing kind of thing. You never have to acknowledge that the contract might be complete, right? And that there's not actually anything else coming from that, and that you don't have to keep revisiting that. So I think it's like, when we can address again the language, we're all about the language here, and what we're saying to ourselves, how that's showing up, how our body's responding to it. Can we start to question some of these things that we blanket as, oh, it must be this, right? Because meanwhile, nobody's emotionally available. Nobody's actually showing up. Like, you're here starving. You're still hungry. And you can have all the language in the world to describe why that's okay, but that doesn't negate the unmet need here.
Yeah. It's self-abandonment dressed up as unconditional love. And unconditional love does not require unconditional self-neglect. You can love someone without conditions and still have conditions for how you allow yourself to be treated. Those two things are not in conflict, right? Like, they both can exist. They're not mutually exclusive. And loving someone unconditionally means that you don't attach strings to your care for them as a human being, but it does not mean that you have to stay. It does not mean that you have to keep showing up to something that leaves you empty consistently every single time. It doesn't mean that your needs become optional in the service of their growth or their comfort, right? So unconditional love for them and unconditional love for yourself can coexist, and in all reality they have to, in order for you to be able to not stay starving.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the hardest addictions to release, right? It's like, you're addicted to the potential. You're addicted to this doorway that you can't stop overanalyzing, right? That word even is a buzzword within itself, the potential of things, because you're not actually attached to what's happening, right? You're attached to the idea of what you would like to be, what's happening, right? You're attached to what could happen, right? And in relationship, I know every woman that is listening to this is like, yeah, I've done that shit, right? Women have to see the vision, right? If I can see this with him or her or whoever you choose to love, right? Like, it's like, I got to be able to see that at first to even know that I can do this, right? So, you're seeing the future vision. You're seeing the imagined version. You're seeing like this healed version, the most divine masculine, divine feminine, right? And this version that shows up, the version that shows up is the way that you've always believed that they could be, but that doesn't mean that's who they are now, right? And here's what makes that so painful, is that you're not delusional. You're not making shit up in your head, right? You might genuinely see something real in them, and that potential may be a very real thing, but someone else's potential is not on your timeline. Right. And your nervous system is not living in the potential. It's living in the current reality. Right. And everyone else all individuals have their own nervous system. What is available in someone else is not going to be on the other person's timing. That everyone has their own journey of where their nervous system is going to be able to go. So the current reality is, you keep leaving the interaction feeling empty because the other person's nervous system is not where you need it to be yet. Right? And you cannot nourish yourself on what someone could be. You can only be fed by what's actually here now.
Yeah. And this speaks to the doorway pattern Because some women will spend months, sometimes years, like you said, just standing at the doorway, and like, we're analyzing it, trying to decode it. What did they mean? Do they care? Is this my intuition speaking? Are they just triggered right now? Am I just triggered right now? Like, if I just say the right thing or explain it away, the right way, what could happen? And the thing is you cannot analyze that doorway forever. I mean, you could, but it's not going to serve you, right? Like, at some point, the doorway is just a doorway, and the question isn't what it means. It's whether you're going to decide to walk through it or not, because while you're over here analyzing, your life is still happening, like, and it's asking you to move. So months are passing, years are passing, and the version of you that's on the other side of the door is still waiting, and she can't come to you. You have to go to her.
Oh, such a bar. Yes, she can't come to you. You do have to go to her, right? What are you still calling patience that your body experiences as waiting to be chosen?
Yeah.
Like, notice where you confuse this emotional intensity with actually emotional intimacy, right? You do not have to earn consistency through suffering, like experiencing that over and over and over to finally get the thing.
And if we're honest with ourselves, the body usually knows first.
The body does.
We talk about this, and we're often detached from our bodies. But if we take the time to get reacquainted, if we take the time to, reassociate ourselves, it's like your stomach tightens before you can explain why. Like, you'll feel anxious waiting for replies from that other person, or you overthink every interaction and go into a spiral after the fact, or you feel energetically depleted after the connection instead of feeling replenished. And that's not a situation where you're just being too sensitive or dramatic, or any of those things that we accuse ourselves of. The body is giving you information in those moments, and that's all data, right? The hunger is data, the depletion is data, the anxiety is data, and it's showing you exactly where you're leaving yourself emotionally unfed, and it has been trying to show you for a long time. The deeper healing here is learning to trust yourself enough to act on what your body already knows. And it's the challenge is doing that without needing full certainty first, without needing to have, the perfect sign, or needing them to confirm what you're already feeling. And you stop waiting for closure from the outside of that doorway when you start trusting the signal coming from the inside of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say what real nourishment, when you're starting to trust that feeling, what real nourishment actually feels right, what it actually feels like, because we're talking about being starving, right? So, because sometimes women have been emotionally in starving dynamics for so long, and that's when something genuinely nourishing shows up, it doesn't feel like love at first. It's actually super fucking quiet, right? It's unfamiliar. It might even feel, like we said before, boring, right? Because in the absence of anxiety, isn't the absence of connection. It's actually the presence of real safety. So, like, what happens when our body, it's signaling that I need real safety here, and maybe we haven't built that yet, right? It feels alarming, and it is easy to want that previous thing, but it's like your body is asking you now. It actually has the capability in the doorway to have communication with you. So if it's asking for real safety, real connection is going to feel steady, and it can feel like you can exhale inside of it, and it can feel like you don't have to manage or perform or wait, right, based on someone else's response. It's not perfect. It's not without friction or maybe like growth or like the hard conversations. You're going to have those, right? But it's emotionally available to have them, right? It's consistently present. It's actually something that's here. I think with any time with women, when we talk about safety, is like a lot of the times, like you said, it's like we're disconnected from our bodies. We're numb in a certain sense. We can't really feel or hear what the body is telling us. And so that robs us from having that innate presence within ourselves, which why when things come up, it's like we have to bring our attention there first and let the body know that we're present there with it so that it can actually communicate what it needs to tell us. And if your nervous system is constantly living in just surviving the connection, bracing for the next withdrawal, right? Waiting for the other shoe to fucking drop. And you're managing your own needs so that they don't inconvenience someone else. That's also information that the body is storing, right? Your body is always telling you something. Are you listening? Right? And it's been trying to tell you. And I think it's really comes a point where when the body starts dropping bombs everywhere and it seems like everything's going to shit, this is actually when your body has the most capacity to have your attention to be like, hey, I need you to listen to this. We need to do something different, right? And I think this is where we talk about this often, where this pushes up against our identity. It's like I used to be able to just push all this shit to the side and keep it moving. But if that's not happening anymore, that doesn't mean anything about you. That just means your body's requiring something different from you. And that permission is only going to come from you being able to give yourself that and be like, it's not like that at first, but it's like you're allowed to listen. You're allowed to listen to what it's telling you and not just ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
So healing is realizing that you can deeply love someone and still acknowledge that the connection is starving you, right? Those two things are allowed to be true at the same time. You mentioned that earlier, right? I think, which is we have to normalize that sometimes we can be, even with feelings, we could be experiencing grief, but then we could be experiencing joy 20 minutes later, right? It's like two things can be true. You're allowed to grieve something while also choosing not to stay in it, right? You're allowed to love someone and still decide that you need to be fed. Right? Like you're allowed to still be hungry. You're allowed to, your hunger may change, right? Like what your hunger used to be and what it is now is very different, right? And I think when we put it in the analogy of like being hungry, like starved, right? And then actually being fed, it's like nourished. Think about that when it comes to needs, right? It's like as children, we have these unmet needs and then we go through our adult lives learning what we need. And maybe that doesn't happen until after. And it's like, when you find out what you need, can you feed yourself, right? Like, can you actually give it to yourself? And I think that's the piece where in healing, it's realizing that hunger is never going to go away. Those feelings it's not just going to magically go away, but you get to keep meeting them different. You get to keep nourishing them and feeding them and tending to them. And that's something that once you start to do that, it's like, you're aware of that now, and it's less of someone else having to do it for you. Like, you know what you need. You get to keep feeding yourself with what you need. And if that's not happening in relationship, that's a telltale sign, right? Grief and self-respect can live in the same body. Love and leaving can also be a part of the same story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And choosing yourself isn't bitterness or giving up or like, failing at love. It is self-respect. And at some point you stop trying to decode all the mixed signals and start listening to like the very clear signal that's coming from your body, right? It's like, can you stop chasing the possibility of something when you finally believe that you deserve what you are, I hate to say like entitled to, right? But what you truly deserve now, like that nourishment, that level of having your needs met, you deserve it now.
Birthright, your needs, yeah.
Yeah, it's not just when the other person is ready, right? It's not when the timing is better for somebody else or when you're patient enough to quote unquote earn it. It's like now as you are, like without having to betray yourself to receive it. It's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're allowed to leave spaces that only feed your hope, but never actually your heart or your body or like that like innate inside of you. You do not have to earn consistency through suffering, right? Like suffering over and over and over. Yeah, it's consistency in some form, but it's not in the direction that you want. You honestly here, like you can become your next best step when you're aware of these things and when you can say like, okay, like if this is a need of mine, I need to give myself what's best for me here. right?
Yeah.
Like this is where like these realizations, these realizations are quiet. They're not going to come in super hot to where it's like, duh, this has been the thing the whole time. But after you've experienced it and you still feel that like I'm starting, like, God, I'm the only one that can nourish me. And 9 times out of 10, my next best step to nourish myself is the right one.
Yeah. And I think every woman can reflect and understand that there's been a point in her life where she's felt like she couldn't choose herself and still choose the thing that she thought that she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And in choosing yourself is the only way that you will ultimately get what you want. Because if you don't, you're not showing up with full authenticity. And if you have to sacrifice yourself for the thing that you think that you want, is it actually what you want?
Bar. Right? If it's
Oh,
at the cost of myself, is it actually even something that I wanted? Or is it like, I think enough women don't talk about that, right? Because it's like it goes against what, I don't know, the standards or what you should be doing, all the things. But it's like that again, I think we even talked about this last episode. It's like that's something that's individualistic that like no other woman is going to be able to tell another woman that she needs to innately feel that for herself.
yeah. Yeah. And if it is at the cost of you, then there will only be a partial version of you that's even living in the thing that you're accepting.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, it's never really what you want.
Yeah.
It can't reach its full potential either way because you have to be fully actualized in it to be able to fully receive it or to be able to fully enjoy it or to be able to be present with it. And you're always going to feel like something is missing or that you're chasing something or trying to get to something. It's always quite out of reach.
Right. And the goalpost is going to keep moving, right? You said it's never going to reach its full potential. Why? Because you're not reaching your full potential. You're not fully expressed. You're not fully embodied in this version that you see for yourself, right? You're in you're in a managed version of yourself based off someone else.
And you will always find reasons to blame yourself. When the cost is you, you will always find reasons to blame yourself while you're not getting the things that you want in these dynamics. And guess what? That's a good cue because there is a component of self-reflection in that. Instead of looking at, well, what did I do wrong to cause the scenario to happen? What can I do to seek out what I actually need? And if that other person isn't it, then that's okay. And it's never too late. I think a lot of times we get in situations and we tell ourselves like, well, I'm already here and it's too late and there's too many things at risk. But even if even if you start choosing yourself, it's not to say that that thing has to end, right? It can change, but you won't know its potential for change if you don't start showing up as the version of you that actually needs the things that she needs and voices it and allows an opportunity for somebody to meet those needs.
Right. Can you allow yourself to be mutable, right? It's like you don't have to stay here. You get it. And that's I think also the piece of it is like you don't just do this one time. Like if you see that doorway that's been created for you and maybe there's people on the other side of that and like you're wanting to make that step, it's like you are your next best step. You have to actually take the steps to get there and to do the thing. And when you can stop chasing like the possibility of that, when you finally believe that you do deserve that nourishment, you do deserve to meet your own needs. Like you do deserve to not just fall in love with potential, but like it's almost like, especially with another person, it's like, can we take them out of it for a second? It's like, can you fall in love with your highest potential?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think like for a lot of dynamics, it's like sometimes you can easily see what you want to see for someone else, but you can't see like the highest version of yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, even if you can't see your own potential it's can you take a step back and analyze the current version of you and ask yourself if you can love her as she currently is. And if that feels like, I can't say that I fully love her as she is based on the way that she's showing up or the choices that she's making or the way that she's minimizing herself. Like, okay, well, what would it take for you to love that version? Let's start doing some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love the door analogy though, because it's like, gosh, you see the doorway in front of you. It's like a portal, right? Like you just want to step through it and then like carry as many other people through it, right? And I think it makes me excited to talk about because again, when a woman feels that shift within herself, it's like, you know that you can go through that portal on your own, and it doesn't mean that that's going to be your job to help others do that, right? But like, you know what it took to do that. And it's something that a lot of women don't talk about, right? And so if we can normalize that that's happening, it's like, can we give, I mean, I'm all for like women empowerment. Can we allow other women to know that it's possible, right? Like you hear all the time, like friends, sisters, cousins, whatever, people, clients, anyone going through these certain things. And it's like, they just need to know that it's possible. Like women are such expanders of each other that you can't just analyze this doorway forever. And at some point, like the question isn't what it means about you. The question is like, are you going to be willing to walk through it on your own terms of when you see it? Like stop seeing it and actually go ahead through it, because there's other people before you have done that are telling you like they have their own experience of that. It's worth it.
Yeah. And they're not coming to drag you through. So
that always with the hard piece afterwards. Yeah. They're not coming to drag you through facts. And if anything, you don't want to be dragging yourself through that either. Like, I think that's also the piece that is, when we were talking about like the hunger part of it, it's like you're so used to being starved, or you've been starved for so long, that when you start to actually give yourself the nourishment that you need to be able to go through it, if you do that too early, right, you can easily revert back. So it's like you have to go like on your own timing. You have to go when you're ready. And I guess like that's the thing too, like being ready is not something that's like this end result. Like you're going to keep analyzing, you're going to keep like looking at this, and there has to be a point in time where you ask yourself, like, you've been ready to eat. Like just go ahead. You need to just give yourself permission to go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if this episode hit, please send it to somebody that is sitting in emotional starvation and telling themselves that they are just being patient and waiting for something to come their way. Let us know. Let us know if you liked it.
Yeah. I as you're saying that, it makes me think of like when projectors are like, I'm just waiting for the invitation, right? Like, no, well, you gotta turn on your light to let the people know that you can actually do the thing, and then the invitations will come. Like, we gotta take some step here. This emotional starvation, if you're in the middle, maybe right now, of choosing yourself, and maybe you're grieving this version of you that hopes something could be different, or could something that you wish you could become, right? Like, we want to acknowledge that, normalize that for you. We're proud of you. We're proud of you for even being able to acknowledge that out loud, and know that in the middle between choosing yourself right now and something of what you thought it could be, like, it gets a lot easier once you choose yourself. Like, it gets a lot easier once you start to feed yourself, and those old, feelings of just being hungry and rumbling, it's like that becomes your new default, where you're starved, where you're nourished, and you're no longer starved in that starving pattern. You're not just looking for what's familiar, you're looking for what you actually need now. And that's not something small. That's something huge to acknowledge within yourself. So anything else for them? This was a digestible episode. We're talking about being hungry, being starving. Like, I hope this dropped in at your lunchtime or whenever it was supposed to. And if you know anyone who, like we said, is in this place, please send them this episode. We like to expand our table, right? And have you come take a seat at it. And I challenge you, when you listen to this episode, if something hit within you, can you share it with someone new you haven't shared it with before, right? Hey, I've been listening to this podcast for, whatever, however long, and like, let me know what you think. Right? Like, share, subscribe. As always, we love to hear feedback of what resonated most for you. What else, Lake? What else do we have for them? Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Keep it low and slow.
See you next time.